G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome everyone. Today we're breaking from the usual format and speaking with a subject matter expert on mergers and acquisitions. I'm interviewing Michelle Seiler Tucker from Seiler Tucker Incorporated on mergers and acquisitions. Thanks for your time today, Michelle.
Thank you so much for having me, Troy. It's a pleasure to be with you.
And how we know each other, Sebastian on your team reached out and thought you might be a good guest to come on the cast. And I totally agree. This topic is pertinent to our audience. And I'm very, very intrigued in mergers and acquisitions and your deep experience in this field as well. So I'm really looking forward to chatting about it.
Thank you.
So maybe start with a bit about your background and experience.
Sure. I mean, everybody asked me, how did I get started? I didn't start out selling companies, but I did start out in entrepreneurship. I've owned many different businesses in many different verticals. I did actually get sucked into working for corporate America, and I actually had a job. And Xerox actually recruited me. So I went to work for a Fortune 500 company. They recruited me from their competitor. And I was with them for about 6 months. They nicknamed me the closer because every time somebody couldn't get something sold, they're like, call Michelle, she can get it done. She's a closer.
Great.
And then my superior came to me, my manager came to me and said, Michelle, you really should interview for the regional manager's vice president position. She said, you'll never get it because you've only been here for 6 months. And Xerox policy is we don't promote till you've been here. Employees have been here for at least 2 years. Plus there's people that have been here for years and years. And I said, and she goes, it's a 3-month process. I said, why would I give up 3 months of my time to interview for something I'm never going to get? And she said, because of the experience. She says, you will learn so much through this process that it will be, a game changer for you. So I said, okay. And she's right. It was a grueling process where I interviewed with several different high-level executives and went through presentations, demonstrations, etc. I ended up getting it. So I guess I really am truly the closer.
Yeah. Well done. Yes.
And then none of my friends at Xerox liked me anymore because I beat them out of this position. But anyway, I moved into vice president of the region and, be careful what you wish for. And I always tell companies, don't promote your number one salesperson. Do not promote your closer.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I think I did a good job, but I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And the reason I didn't like it is because I don't like corporate. I don't like all the red tape. I don't like going through 20 people to get a decision made. I like working with clients, building relationships that last a lifetime. And I like, finding out what the problems are, identifying problems and finding solutions, coming up with solutions. So I ended up leaving Xerox, transitioning into franchise sales, franchise development, franchise consulting, sold hundreds upon hundreds of franchises. Then because all my buyers kept asking me, do you have an existing business for sale? And I kept saying, no. And then I said to myself, why am I saying no?
Yep.
I should be saying yes. So that's when I decided to open up my mergers and acquisitions firm. I've been doing this for about 20 years. Mm-hmm. I personally sold over 500 companies, plus hundreds of franchises. My team has sold over 1,000 businesses altogether. We've done thousands of valuations. I specialize in buying, selling, fixing, growing companies. So I will buy companies, flip them. I partner with business owners, investing my money, time, resources, and expertise, and in which to build the build to sell program. And then I, really specialize in fixing businesses because Steve Forbes says that 8 out of 10 businesses won't sell. So that's when I said, gosh, if I don't learn how to fix these, build these businesses, I'm going to starve to death. So that's how I really came up with my build to sell model. And that's why I specialize in buying, selling, fixing, growing. We typically on average obtain a 20 to 40% higher selling price for our clients, close 98% of all offers I write. We have over 28,000 buyers in our database. So we have probably one of the biggest buyer databases in the industry.
Yep.
And there's 5 different types of buyers. We work with all 5. And we're good at what we do.
That's great. Maybe can you outline just briefly what those 5 buyers are? And then I'd
Yeah,
love.
sure. So 90% of buyers are first-time buyers. The first-time buyers buy smaller businesses. And then you have turnaround specialists. Turnaround specialists buy distressed assets.
Yep.
Right now, turnaround specialists are in heaven because it's a gold mine out there for them of so many businesses that are not doing well all over the world because of the pandemic that we're in. And then there's strategic competitors. Strategic/competitors really pay the most money for synergy. So they're really good buyers because they look at businesses a little bit differently. They look at businesses of how is, if I get this talent, or if I get these contracts, if I get this database, or if I get these different synergies, what does that do for my existing business? How does that catapult my existing business to the next level?
Mm-hmm.
And then the last type of buyer is a sophisticated entrepreneur. They're industry agnostic. They are cash flow specific. They chase cash flow.
Yep. Great. And just maybe hone in on when you said a minute ago, Forbes said 8 out of 10 businesses aren't, saleable. So when you go in to flip a business or fix it, what are some of the, a handful of the key things that you find all the time pretty much that you need to focus on to get the business right?
So it's all about the 6 Ps.
Yep.
And the ST 6 Ps that we talk about in Exit Rich, it's all about those. So I'll walk you through those because that will answer your question.
Great. Yeah.
So number one of the biggest mistakes that business owners make is they are the business. They've created a glorified job in which they go to work at every day versus a job that works for them, a business that works for them.
Yep.
Buyers don't want to buy a job. Buyers want to buy a business. So many business owners are the business. I just had a dentist that called me that's been in business 45 years, wants to sell 1 dentist, 3 dental hygienists. And he's like, Michelle, I'm done. I'm not going to stay. And I'm like, well, if you're not going to stay for a few years, then your business is not sellable.
Yep.
So he leaves, the patients leave. That example is 1,000 and 1,000 and 1,000 and 1,000 times over.
Yeah.
So you really have to focus on the first P is people. You need to, you don't build a business, you build people, and people build a business.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have the right people in the right place.
I love that Jim Collins quote, you get the right people on the bus, the wrong people off, and the right people in the right seats.
Right. The right people in the right seats. Plus you have to ask the who question.
Yep.
Who opens the door? Who deals with customer service? Who deals with marketing, accounting, legal, transportation, logistics, manufacturing, environmental? The list goes on and on. The clue is you should never be next to the who.
Yeah.
Because you need to really build a business that runs without you. You want the business to be sustainable and scalable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't plan on selling your business, you should be building your business on this infrastructure of the 6 Ps so that you have a business that runs without you. I met with an owner that hasn't taken a vacation in 19 years.
Wow.
That's insane. I mean, we go into business so we have financial freedom. We go into business so we have a better quality of life. We don't go into business to be a slave to our business and never get any free time.
Yeah.
So the second P is product. You have to look at your product, your industry, and determine is your product on the way up or on the way out? Do you have an Amazon or do you have a Blockbuster? If you have a Blockbuster, then you need to pivot. And there's a lot of Blockbusters out there right now because of the pandemic, right? So you have to ask yourself 3 transformational questions. And these are really important questions that I don't think people pay enough attention to. And Amazon did this back in the 90s. Amazon asked themselves, what business are we in?
Mm-hmm.
They said, we're in a book selling business. We sell books. Then they said, well, what do we do really well, better than anybody else? They said, we do fulfillment better than anybody else. And then they asked themselves the most important question, what business should we be in?
Mm-hmm.
What business should we be in? So those 3 questions took Amazon from a small bookseller to the multi-billion-dollar worldwide conglomerate that they are today.
Yeah.
These 3 questions sound simple, but they're a game changer.
Yep.
Business owners have to get out of the transactional and get into transformational. Just like I say, business owners have to focus on their strengths and hire their weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the third P is processes. You're not going to build a sustainable business that's scalable without processes. And unfortunately, processes are kind of like exit strategy. Most business owners don't think about them until something bad happens.
Yeah.
And by then it's kind of too late. I mean, we got a manufacturing company that's selling, and they had a catastrophic event happen on the manufacturing floor, and they're going to get sued. They might lose everything because they're really at fault. And the business owner said to me, "Gosh, we need a process for health and safety." And I'm
Wow.
like, you know what? You needed that before.
Definitely.
Yeah. So you really should start your processes from the beginning of buying or starting a business. You can tweak them along the way and improve them, perfect them. Also, most business owners get this wrong. It's imperative to design your processes around the customer experience,
Yep.
not around your own agenda.
Yes.
So many processes are built around the owner's agenda. You know, that doesn't make for happy clients. Back in the 40s, McDonald's, did you ever watch the movie The Founder with the McDonald brothers?
Yeah, Michael Keaton's in that. It was great.
Yeah, Michael Keaton. So Michael Keaton played Ray Kroc.
Yes.
Ray Kroc actually took McDonald's and blew it up. The McDonald brothers are the ones who started it back, I think, in the 40s or 50s, right?
And Ray Kroc was in his early 50s when he stumbled upon them.
Yes, when he stumbled across. Yep, absolutely. So the McDonald brothers, and I think it was California, is when they started. You know, back then, what was popular were the fast food Sonic type drive ups, but they weren't perfected. So the food was always cold. The order took so long, and it usually was wrong. So McDonald brothers said, we're gonna build a fast food restaurant. We're gonna design the processes around the customer experience. We want the customer experience to be this. We want them to get great tasting food that's hot, fast. Do you remember the movie when they went to the empty tennis courts and they took all their employees out there and they drew out the processes?
Yeah, that was genius, wasn't it?
Yes, genius, right? And then they erased it. And remember how they kept bumping into each other?
Yep.
And they kept getting it all wrong until they finally took all day and figured out who takes the order, who cooks the burgers, who toasts the buns, who puts the pickles on the buns and gives it to the clients 2 minutes or less. Those processes, Troy, that were figured out and mapped out on a tennis court back in 1940s or 50s, whatever the year was, even though they've been tweaked along the way, that's why you can eat at a McDonald's in Australia, USA, or anywhere around the world and get the same experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, they didn't say it's going to be organic. They didn't say it's going to be good for you or healthy for you.
No. They said it'll be fast.
They said it would be great tasting food. It is good tasting food. I mean, they have the best French fries ever.
Yep.
And it would be fast and hot. So you got to design your process around the customer experience in mind and make sure they're productive and efficient. Make sure you have policy and procedure manuals. Make sure that you also have employee handbooks, employee contracts, non-competes.
Yep.
Because the buyer is going to walk in and want to see all this documentation and due diligence.
Yes.
Proprietary is the fourth P. Proprietary is the number one value driver. Proprietary will get you a higher multiple than anything else. Proprietary can take you from a 4 multiple to maybe an 8 multiple.
And that multiple, sorry, you're generally talking about on EBITDA, not sales?
Yeah. Multiples are typically calculated on EBITDA.
Yeah, which is operating profit, so before tax, depreciation, and interest, yeah.
Correct. Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. The only industry that's really figured on a multiple of gross is SaaS companies.
Yes.
Other than that, most industries are multiple of EBITDA. Under $1 million in EBITDA, the multiples will be lower. Typically under 5, under 4. Over $1 million in EBITDA, the multiples will typically be 5 or a little bit over.
Yep.
These synergies is what creates a higher multiple, which creates more buyers, which creates bidding wars.
Yep.
So build your proprietary assets. So number one in proprietary assets, there's 6 pillars for proprietary assets. So I'll get through all 6 of them. Number one is branding. The more well-branded you are, the more I can sell your business for, as long as your brand is relevant in the mind of the consumers. Nobody wants to pay any money for a blockbuster. No. But
well, there is one left. Sorry, there is one left in Bend, Oregon, isn't there? But it's just a tourist attraction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a tourist attraction. I don't see anybody throwing cash at it.
Yeah.
So, so you got it. So if you look at the most valuable brand in the world, do you know what brand that is?
Apple.
Apple. You are absolutely correct. Apple is worth $249 billion with a B.
And a
That's
lot of that
just
would
for
be,
the brand.
yeah, I was going to say a lot of that's brand, isn't it? Yeah.
That's all
That's
brand.
all the brand. Yeah.
That is all brand. That is no assets, inventory, real estate, no furniture, fixtures, equipment, no EBITDA. That's just the brand alone.
That's
So
phenomenal.
build your brand.
Yeah.
We can sell your company for a lot of money. Trademarks are also important. Trademark, your company trademark, your slogans, your logos, your podcasts, your books, anything that's unique, your USP, your unique selling proposition. Problem in the United States, I don't know about Australia, but in the United States, business owners will go get a state trademark. Like, so if they're opening up in California, they'll license with the state of California, but then they never check the federal database to make sure that that company name is available.
Yep.
So they could be in business for many years and all of a sudden receive a cease and desist letter in the mail, and they got to stop using that name.
Yeah.
And then they got to start all over. So protect your IP. Patents. Patents are huge. Do you watch Shark Tank in Australia?
Yeah, I used to love the UK version as well. God, Dragon's Den. A lot shows like that. I really enjoy Shark Tank. Yeah.
Yeah. So every single investor asks the same question to every single inventor.
Yep.
Do you have a patent on that? Do you have a patent pending? Do you have a utility patent? Patents are huge. We once sold a company that wasn't making that much money for $18 million because they had 18 patents.
Right.
Contracts, manufacturing, distribution, vendor contracts, franchisors, anything exclusive contracts, extremely valuable. The most valuable of all contracts are those client contracts.
Yes.
Because buyers want to make sure the business they're buying has revenue coming in, especially if you have contracts with reoccurring revenue and or a subscription model. That will get you a higher multiple than businesses that don't have that.
Yep.
Celebrity endorsements are big. Radio personalities that endorse your business, your industry, your service, your product, because they can only endorse one skincare at a time, one diet company at a time. Otherwise, they don't look credible. And then e-commerce businesses that have those top positions on Amazon in their niche, Etsy, Wayfair, any other, big platform, that is extremely valuable to a strategic and a competitor. So these are your proprietary assets. The more you build them, the more we can sell your business for. Patreons is the fifth P. This is your customer database. This is your customer. Oh, I left off one thing in proprietary databases.
Yes.
Databases are huge. Facebook paid $19 billion for WhatsApp. And WhatsApp was making how much money?
0, wasn't it, at the time?
0. Actually, it was worse than 0 because they were losing money. They were hemorrhaging.
And
so they were losing so
and Instagram got
money.
bought for $1 billion with 0 revenue and 12 staff. Phenomenal.
Yep. Well, the reason that Facebook paid $19 billion for WhatsApp is because WhatsApp had 1 billion users. And Facebook knew they could ROI and they could monetize on that.
Yep.
And so back to Patreons, in the States, not sure about Australia, but in the States, most businesses follow the 80-20 rule where 80% of their revenue comes from 20% of their clients. Well, if you lose a few clients, you could be in big trouble. We once had a advertising business we were working with that had 5 clients, only 5 clients. And we were selling them in the $10 million range, but their 5 clients were the biggest casinos in the States.
Yep. Right.
They lost 2 clients during the process.
Oh,
the revenues dropped in half. They weren't sellable anymore. We ended up having to merge them. So these are things you got to really think about and pay attention to. You want customer diversification rather than customer concentration.
Yes.
The last P, most important P to all entrepreneurs, is profits. Everybody wants to make money. So I put profits last because profits is never the problem. It's always a symptom of not operating on one of the other 5
Right.
Ps.
Yeah.
People come to me and say, Michelle, I have a profit problem. I'm like, no, you have a people problem.
Yep.
No, you have a process problem. Problems are never the problem. They're the symptom. If you're running all 5 cylinders, all 5 Ps, I can promise you, you'll make money. You'll make profits.
Yeah, great. And on the valuation, generally, it's usually a 3-year of average of EBITDA. They do a multiple on. Is that right?
It really depends. We work on anything 3 to 5 year average, especially with the pandemic, because 2020 has been a really bad year for many, many industries. It's been a good year for many others. So it works both ways. If it's a horrible year, sellers are like, well, the buyer just needs to erase 2020. I'm like, well, buyer's not going to erase 2020.
No.
But what we'll do is we'll do maybe a 4, depending, on what it looks like. We'll do a 4-year average with 2020, or a 3-year, typically a 4-year average with 2020, or a 3-year average with 2020. And then if 2021 is looking good, we might do 18, 19, 2020 and 2021 projections.
Yep.
And do it that way, because we know the business is coming back up. If the business is doing really, really, really well and they've had their best year ever, and a lot of business owners are like, well, I should get paid on just that 1 year. Well, no, you're not.
No.
So again, it's going to be like a 3 or 4-year average. We have a company that went from $45 million in gross revenues to $37 million in gross revenues in 2019 to $72 million
Wow.
in gross revenues in 2020. Went from $2.8 million in EBITDA to over $17 million in EBITDA. And I've had to explain to them, you're not getting paid on that 1 year.
No.
Don't start counting your money.
Yeah. And what's typically, or what have you seen as, the highest multiplier, in a group, not just a one-off, but what's the highest you think?
I mean, the highest multiples are always going to be on SaaS companies.
Yeah. Well, apart from those, more traditional, because SaaS can be anywhere from, 3 to 15 times sales.
Or I've seen one going for 23.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what about
traditional companies, like I said, anything under $1 million in EBITDA is going to be typically under 4.
Yep.
Typically 2, 3, 4 times EBITDA. If it's got some good synergies, they might get to 4.5, a little under 5. If they get over $1 million in EBITDA, a lot of times I can get them around 5. If they got some of these synergies that we just talked about, even more. Yep. And here's what creates higher multiples. What creates higher multiples is having lots of buyers.
Yes.
Having lots of buyers that that are buying synergies and that are willing to pay more money for those synergies that can really catapult their business to the next level. So when we look at valuations, evaluations are rather more of an art rather than a science.
Yes.
And we really look at these synergies and look at what buyers are willing to pay what for, plus what buyers, what strategics and competitors can cut, what overhead can they cut? Meaning, let's say we're selling a manufacturing company that has distribution center, and a distribution center costs them $5 million a year to operate. But the manufacturing company looking at it already has distribution centers all over the United States. They can cut that $5 million right there.
Yes.
And increase their EBITDA day one. So we got to look at economies of scales. We got to look at, what their operations is, what can they cut, what can they reduce, etc. Plus, we sold a business that had customer concentration. 65%, 70% of their business was tied up in the BP contract as an oil manufacturing company. Mm-hmm. And we had 550 buyers. We had 12 LOIs. Most of the buyers were getting very nervous about the customer concentration and they wanted to mitigate their risk. So the offer reflected such. But then we found a buyer who was a strategic, who had some of our products and services. They've been trying to get in BP for years. And their thought process was, we have to have this company because we can get our products and services and ROI.
Yep. And
they paid. So we appraised the business for $9.8 million. They paid $15 million for 70% of the company. So they paid 126% more than what their price was.
Yeah, that's a great outcome.
So the name of the game here, Troy, is finding that need of a buyer in a haystack.
Yes. And what kind of typical time frame does it take if someone's thinking of exiting, from that first initial thought to when it actually is, you sign the papers?
It's just really all over the map.
Yep.
I tell you, typically a lot of times, it's just all over the map. We sold an oil manufacturing business in 3 months from start to finish.
Wow, that's fast. Mm.
Another, that one I just told you about, that took us about 9 months from start to finish because the seller kept changing their minds.
Yeah.
Sellers kept going back and forth. Usually the holdup is the sellers.
Yeah.
It's not the buyers, and it's certainly not us, because we're always waiting on the seller, always waiting on the seller, always waiting on the seller for financials, waiting for updated financials, waiting for, the product mix, waiting.
Yeah.
If they could have a point person to give us everything when we ask for it, we could
Yep.
probably speed up the process.
So that's a bit of advice you'd give anyone considering that early on, a point person that you can go to get information or the
That would be
buyers.
wonderful. Most business owners, obviously don't want their employees to know, but the larger companies will have a CFO or somebody,
Mm.
that they're working for, but not always. I mean, we're selling a $70 million company right now that's family owned, and they don't have a CFO.
Yeah. Right.
So I have to wait on them.
Yeah. So typically though, it can on average would be under a year then from start to.
No. The average in the United States is a year to sell a business.
Right.
The fastest I've ever sold a business is a week. The longest is 6 years.
Yes. Oh, 6 years. My goodness. I hope you had a retainer.
Yeah, and that's because the state kept changing. It was a medical practice and one of those urgent care facilities, and the state of Louisiana kept changing the rules.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Great. And what about costs involved to get the business sold? Typically, I assume there'd be a fixed fee and a percentage of the sale price.
I'm sorry?
If someone's helping sell a business, an advisor, so would they typically, there'd be a percentage of the sale that they would take?
Yes, so a lot of mergers and acquisitions, advisors, intermediaries will charge a retainer fee.
Yep.
And I've seen it go anywhere from $5,000 a month to $65,000 up front to $100,000 to $25,000, and then commissions. We don't charge retainer fees. Doesn't mean that we won't one day.
Yep.
But I've been in this industry 20 years. I'm results driven. I base everything on results. So we don't charge retainer fees. We charge percentage of the deal.
Great. Yeah.
Find it hard to define a clear strategy, then communicate it and execute it alongside the rest of your team? Or you currently don't work a simple quarterly strategic plan to boost your team's performance? Our Business Growth Formula online course is perfect for small business owners with 5 to 30 team members wanting to grow. We share the mindsets, habits and tools to be a legendary leader in your business. GrowASmallBusiness.com.
And do you have any other examples of how powerful mergers and acquisitions can be for business or business owners?
What do you mean, how powerful?
Well, just I guess any other examples. Do you have any other good examples of mergers and acquisitions that you've been involved with that the audience might be able to learn from?
Well, I mean, I've done so many.
What about your favorite? What about your favorite and least favorite?
My favorite. My favorite. I'm thinking.
That's all right.
I'm trying to determine who's going to listen to this because my clients listen. They get upset if I don't call them my favorite. I mean, I've done over 1,000. I mean, my company's done over 1,000 transactions, so it's kind of hard to narrow it down. My favorite, maybe one of those oil manufacturing companies, that we were able to get our clients 126% more than the appraised price. Another one that we did in 3 months. Those are probably some of my favorites, but I don't know. Every deal is different. Every deal has hair on it.
Yeah. What about the most quirky or interesting one?
Yeah. So probably the most quirky one and my least favorite.
Yeah, there we go.
It's easier to answer.
Yeah.
I have so many favorites. Probably one of my least favorite ones is a staffing company, industrial staffing, came to us to sell the business. Had locations all throughout. Had operated in all 6 P's. Brilliant company. Problem, We could have sold this business for about $30 million.
Mm.
We had probably about, I don't know, 400 or 500 buyers, maybe more.
Wow. Yeah.
And the problem is that the husband decides to leave his wife and marry his high school sweetheart
Right.
or elementary school sweetheart. I don't know, one of those schools.
Mm-hmm.
And while he's still married to his wife, can't do that in America. Maybe Utah. No, I don't know. You really can't do that. So anyway, so his wife, and I don't know if he really got married. He told me he did, but I told everybody else he didn't. But regardless, he left his wife, took off with this other wife. And then they had a catastrophic injury occur where one of the employees lost a limb.
Mm.
And then they falsified workers' comp records.
Oh, no. Right.
And then the business deteriorated very quickly.
Yeah, that's sad.
So they went from a bunch of locations to very few.
Mm-hmm.
And they lost all their top customers.
Mm-hmm.
So the business ended up in bankruptcy court. I had a buyer that gave me an offer outside of bankruptcy court for about $3 million.
Yep.
From $30 million, and bought several buyers right before we went to bankruptcy court. Ended up going into bankruptcy. I got approved by the bankruptcy courts as a stalking horse, which means I'm approved by the courts to sell the business. So we ended up selling the business to the buyer that offered $3 million. He ended up getting it for $1.2 million.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
So that's a major screw ups that business owners do.
Well, that's the next question. What's one thing you think small business owners do really poorly in this area of mergers and acquisitions?
Well, so, you keep saying mergers and acquisitions, but let's just talk about businesses in general, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
When I wrote my first book in 2013 called Sell Your Business for More Than It's Worth, I did the research. And in America, I don't know about Australia, but in America, it used to be that 95% of all startups would go out of business.
Yes.
In those first 1 to 5 years. So 1 to 5 years is the most risky, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I wrote Exit Rich, which is my third book in 2019, 2020, did the same research. Found out that the business landscape has flip-flopped.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's only 30% of startups are going out of business. Only 30%. That's a drastic change.
Huge. Yeah.
But listen to this. Out of 27.6 million companies, those businesses have been in business 10 years or longer. 70% of those businesses are going out of business.
Right.
70.
Mm-hmm.
That has flip-flopped. Small business is the backbone of the U.S. economy, employing over half the U.S. workforce.
Same in Australia, most developed nations. Yep.
Yeah, and you probably hear about the public companies even in Australia, like Toys R Us.
Yeah.
Toys R Us in business 75 years closes. Kmart, Steinmart, Pier 1. Godiva Chocolate closes 1,500 locations. GNC is closing 900. Even Starbucks has had some trouble. So that's what you hear about in the media, but you're not hearing about all the private companies on every street corner in every town in every state across America that are dropping like flies. They're exiting poor.
Yes.
They're selling for pennies on the dollar. They're closing their business. They're filing bankruptcy. And the biggest reason for that, the biggest mistake that business owners are making now, because it used to be, Troy, that if you could last over 5 years, you're golden. You're going to be in business for a long time.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Right.
And the main reason is because business owners stopped doing what I call AIM.
Right.
AIM is always innovate and market.
That's good. I like that.
Business owners stop doing that. Business owners get married to their idea and they want to do things the way they've always done. And bottom line is you're either growing or dying. There is no in between.
So sorry. Yeah, that reminds me of one of my favorite Peter Drucker quotes. Because the purpose of business is to create a customer, the business enterprise has two and only two basic functions: marketing and innovation. Marketing and innovation produce results. All the rest are costs. Marketing is the distinguishing unique function of the business. So with your AIM acronym, I think you've just nailed it right there.
Awesome. So everybody should really go out and get Exit Rich.
Yeah. Before we get on to the final three questions here, how can people get in touch with you? What's the best place to go and visit?
So a few ways. Number one, I encourage everyone to go buy Exit Rich. We're in the middle of pre-sales. Sharon Lecter is my co-author. She wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad with Robert Kiyosaki.
Great.
So she's a New York Times bestselling author 5 times, plus a CPA, financial literacy expert, and she's the advisor to many different presidents.
It's a great book, and as is the follow-up book of Cash Flow Quadrant. Yeah.
Yep. She writes the mentors corner after each chapter in Exit Rich.
Mm-hmm.
Her husband is an intellectual property attorney. Also, Exit Rich is endorsed by Steve Forbes.
Wow, great.
And Kevin Harrington, who was the original Shark on Shark Tank, wrote the foreword.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Yep.
Mark Victor Hansen, Les Brown. That I've all endorsed Exit Rich. So they can all go get Exit Rich at exitrichbook.com. We're in pre-sales right now. We launch in June, but they don't have to wait till June. We will email them the digital download immediately when they order.
Right.
Plus, we'll send the hardcover to anyone in the United States. Outside
Mm-hmm.
the United States, you know that's extra shipping, right?
Yep.
And then, in addition to that, you will get a lifetime membership into the Exit Rich Book Club, where there's lots of video content and me doing training into these different techniques and strategies, plus documents.
Great.
Documents to run your business and sell your business. Non-competes, employee handbooks, organizational charts, sample letter of intent, sample purchase agreement, sample due diligence checklist, and closing docs. All these documents will cost you about $25,000 to $30,000 or more. If you try to recreate them, they're there for your review and your download. Plus, we will give you 30 days free membership into Club CEOs, which is a mastermind that I started of like-minded entrepreneurs, where we ask those transformational questions and really help business owners build a sellable, scalable business. Your listeners can also text Michelle to 888-526-5750. All my social media pops up. I encourage everyone to follow me and connect with me on LinkedIn. And also my other website is SeilerTucker.com.
Right. Perfect. Thanks, Michelle. Right. I want to final few questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in mergers and acquisitions for small business?
I think the hardest thing for small businesses is to really try to emotionally detach from your business, because it's not your baby. Your babies are at home. Go home and give them some love.
Yeah.
And treat your business like the asset that it is, and build on the
Mm.
infrastructure of the 6 Ps that we just discussed.
Yep. Great. And any other favorite mergers and acquisitions books you'd recommend or resources apart from Exit Rich?
You know, I've read other books and I didn't think they were good, so I don't want to say anything negative, but
No.
I encourage everybody to read Exit Rich, because it's not just for selling your business, Troy.
Yeah.
Exit Rich is all about building a business that will last you a lifetime, that's sustainable, scalable, and when you're ready, you'll actually have a sellable asset, and you won't end up in the 80% of businesses that can't sell.
Yeah. And final question, what's the one thing you'd say to small business owners starting out in their growth journey on their day one?
Day one, plan your exit. Plan your exit. Think about plan your exit strategy from day one of buying or starting your business. This is where business owners get it wrong. This is where business owners mess up. Troy, they don't think about selling their business until a catastrophic event has occurred. Rather, that's internal, like health issues, partner disputes, divorce, or even worse, death.
Yeah.
External, COVID. This is the worst time to sell your business when a catastrophic event is occurring, because your business is trending downward.
Yeah.
Best time to sell your company is when your company is in its peak and is booming.
Yes.
Plan your exit. Follow the STGPS exit model that I've outlined in Exit Rich. It's 5 steps that will help you put that plan together from day one of buying or starting your company.
Great. Thanks for your time today, Michelle. I think the audience get a lot of value of what you've shared with us today, and I'm downloading Exit Rich. I'm going to run off now and buy it and read it. I think it'll be a good read for the audience as well. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Troy. Thanks for having me on. It was an absolute pleasure being with you.
Thank you. That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.